find it often ruins things when people can see me. So, without further ado, everyone, welcome the first in a long time of live stream guests. Hopefully you can see this. Let me just close that chat. We have Lou from In the Bag Tropical Fish UK, which I've got some stats written down on a really professional bit of paper. 528 subscribers in only the last 3 months, with meteorical rises in YouTube terms. A catfish and pleco specialist fish shop. So, what can you tell us about you and your shop, and why do you exist? What is it about catfish? Just tell us a little bit about your setup, the shop, your tanks, that kind of thing. Give us a bit of an introduction to us.
Yeah, hello everybody, and a big thank you for inviting me to come on here. We've only been doing the YouTube for about 3 months, and it's basically just me filming everything that goes on at our little fish room. So basically, we've been doing it for a couple of years now, and we're just a really small, I say family run. It's basically me mostly doing the fish, and my dad, who is Pirate Dave. And then we've also got the whole family behind the scenes, like mum helps out with paperwork and things like that. So, and my other half helps with plumbing. So that's very helpful. So we've got about 40 tanks. Yeah, it's always good to know a good plumber. We've got about 40 tanks. I've got about 5 or 6 that are like mine, including the one that you see behind me, which is like my sort of main display one. I've been keeping fish for a very, very long time. Dad had fish. Dad had a marine tank and a freshwater tank when I was little, so it's just always just been a thing. But I actually was a primary school teacher before I did this, so this wasn't originally what I did.
Right.
So yeah.
So is this, for those who don't know, is it a proper shop? Are you an online business? Are you open to the public? That kind of thing? You know what I mean?
No, we're not open to the public. No. So I did actually used to work for a chain shop. So I've done my run in the public sector, if that makes sense. Serving customers in a bricks and mortar shop. But no, we are online only. I just told
you that you don't want to ever do that again, and you can just do online only.
If I had a choice, yeah, it's basically that. Like, obviously, like people can come round, if it was people that I know, and if it's a small group of people, it's not a very big fish room. So if there's more than like 2 of you in there, and it's also like, I mean, today it was about 32 degrees in there. So I'm used to it, but a lot of people, they can't spend more than about 10 minutes in there because it's just too hot. So it's just a bit sort of warm and dark. It's my little den. So.
So what is it? A garage, an outhouse?
It's a shed.
A shed, just a shed.
A shed. Yeah, it's a very, very well insulated shed with underfloor heating. Yes. So it's about 10 foot by 20 foot, I think, on the inside. I don't know what that is in meters.
Divided by 3. With old money. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's a good size. And then it's just got underfloor heating, and then I pop a little radiator in there in the winter when it's really, really cold as well. But the underfloor does a really good job. So
cool. So you mentioned that you were a teacher and used to work in a retail fish shop. So was this a conscious decision to move to this, or was it a hobby that took over, or how did this come about?
A little bit of both, really. It was lockdown. So basically, we'd moved for my other half's work, and basically I was doing supply teaching at the time because we'd just moved, and lockdown happened. So basically, if I hadn't decided to do my hobby as a job, I literally switched professions probably about 3 4 weeks before we went into the full lockdown. And there was no furlough for supply teachers. So I would have potentially been in a really, really bad situation, basically. And pet shops were essential businesses. So that was how that one went, basically.
You never looked back. So how have you found it? Because I have spoken to a lot of people who are in the trade and do have fish shops, and they all mention the struggle. I mean, a lot of it is the bricks and mortars side of things. It's very expensive. The rates are very high. Utilities are very high. I mean, utilities are universal, whether you're at home or whether you're on the high street. But how have you found it since the pandemic? Since you started in the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, obviously doing things online is very beneficial because obviously I can reach people that, some of my customers can't actually drive or they're not physically able to get into a shop. So in some ways it's made fish more accessible for people because, I can send fish up to Scotland or something, instead of them having to pay goodness knows how much it is a litre to get down here in a car type thing. But I mean, when we upgraded the fish room, when we built the new one last year, we built it. I basically wanted to make it as eco-friendly as possible. So all of our packaging and stuff, we do all biodegradable everything. Everything's recyclable. So I just really wanted to. Is that you're selling these fish and you're trying to like raise awareness and all this kind of thing, and then you're like, I feel like a lot of it's like everything's wrapped in plastic and everything's just like. It just seems a little bit backwards to be producing loads of plastic when plastic's killing loads of fish. But basically, I built it to be as eco-friendly as possible because we want to go solar and we want to take the whole thing off grid.
Right.
But it only costs about £5 a day in electricity, and that's in the winter months when everything's going. So in the summer, it's only the air pumps that I have to power and the lights when they're on.
I've been going down a bit of a rabbit hole recently with solar power, so I'm awaiting my first or second raft of solar panels, batteries, charge controllers to power my pond. So I've spent the last couple of weeks trying to figure all this out. So that's all started to arrive. So
you can enlighten me.
Coming soon, this will be the first experiment, shall we say. But I've been thinking along the same lines of, can I get something? I've got solar panels in the house anyway, but can I get some more solar panels and maybe run my fish room with the solar panels and take away some of the cost? Because it's getting a bit ridiculous. Especially when you're not the best or the most insulated. So tell me a bit more about your packaging and stuff like that. How does that work? What do you use if you're trying to avoid plastics? Obviously, you don't put the fish in a paper bag.
Yeah, no. Well, we're waiting on what seems to be in the works is in the future they're going to be making plastic, the see-through plastic watertight bags out of fish scales.
All right.
So, which will be so that's what that, but it's like it's not available to the public yet. But basically, everything aside from the plastic fish bag is either recyclable or biodegradable.
Right.
So people don't actually know this, but polystyrene is completely recyclable.
Yeah, well, if nothing else, most fish keepers have several poly boxes they recycle on a regular basis when they go to shows and shops and things like that. Yeah, I've recycled a lot of it for insulation, if nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no. So a lot of people don't realise that polystyrene can be used for loads of things, but actually it is recyclable. The bin men might not actually know that, but it's only like 2% plastic.
Yeah.
And it's mostly air. So but basically everything is aside from those fish bags, so it's all paper tape. We use bright yellow so nobody can miss the boxes. And it's all just paper and cardboard. And then what are the peanuts made of? The packing peanuts. They're the
edible ones.
You're not supposed to eat them, but you're going to say edible. You're not supposed to eat them, but they disappear when you get them in when they're wet.
Yeah.
I think they're made of starch or something.
Yeah.
And you can get those in different shapes. So I'm looking at getting crocodile shaped ones because I thought that'd be quite fun. So.
Yeah, well, that'd be cool. Oh, that's really cool.
Why not?
For a while, a couple of years back, I tried to kind of dip my toe into the sending fish online, got my pet shop license and all that kind of stuff, but it's quite the faff. I don't know if I'm not the right kind of person to get involved with all that, but I did the whole thing where I was trying to source like the packing peanuts and all that kind of stuff and sending test parcels to myself to make sure the temperatures were up to. There's people might not realise the amount of effort and work that goes into just packaging up fish, never mind the admin side of running a business as well. It's quite the minefield sometimes.
The main thing people miss is they don't put a hole in the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've received parcels off like really, really big fish chains, and they don't put a hole in the box for the heat pack
to get the heat pack to activate. Yeah,
make oxygen. No, it doesn't make oxygen, but it's like, I swear it's like iron oxide or something in there, and it has to like react with oxygen. And then I get so many parcels, and they haven't put a hole in the box. And the heat pack is just kind of a bit sad, and it's just like it's such an easy mistake that could be so easily avoided, but everyone seems to forget that.
So what kind of turnover are we talking about here? Are you sending out fish every day? Hundreds of fish? What kind of?
Not hundreds, because it's just the plecos really. So it's we mostly do like pairs and groups. So it's normally sort of 3s and 5s, things like that. On a good day, we could be sort of 3-4 boxes.
Wow.
Generally, it'll be a box a day easily at the moment. And that's just sort of, every business is a little seed and it has to grow. And we've only been going a couple of years really. So it's pretty good.
So
definitely
is that the goal
nice
then with the YouTube channel, is to help that seed grow a little bit? I mean, it's obviously working, because it was my subscribers were saying to me when I was saying I need to get more people on here. I must be completely honest and say this is a little bit selfish from me. I'm trying to get some people who actually know what they're talking about and give me a little bit of credibility. So if I can give you some exposure in return for some credibility, that's what we're going. But your name came up from a few different people suggested that, so it's obviously working. You must have made a name for yourself somewhere. Just talking about, you said your specialism is the catfish and the plecos. Why? Is that just a personal preference, or is that... Because I know there are some people who deep dive into the catfish and pleco world, and because they just love the diversity, the variety, the colours, the way these fish are. But how did you come about that?
I like the weird ones, but people don't really go for the weird ones in the retail world. So, I mean, I like things like banjo cats and the whiptails, the falawellas, basically everything that doesn't really look like a fish. Like, I have some Assistridium dichronomums, which are just amazing. They're like these little green whiptail falawella thingies, and they can change colour, and they're amazing. And I can't get a good photo of one. But they're the kind of thing that people don't really go for. So if I was going to be able to work with those, I was going to have to broaden out a little bit. And, plecos are super easy to breed. I don't know. I've got a couple of breeding groups, and I just find them quite straightforward. I am generally a monster fish person, first and foremost. So a lot of my personals are monsters. So I've got, a gar behind me, an arowana. I've got an emperor snakehead growing out in a tank below me. I like things with teeth that are really, really big, but I do not think that the hobby needs more of those. And especially with, cichlids, you need a really, really serious setup to do cichlids on a retail scale. So it was kind of just, a sort of measured choice.
Well,
this is kind of what I want to work with.
There's out there that like paying good money for fish that they never see. I don't know quite how that works out, but that's definitely is there. I know we've got a few in chat who are very big pleco enthusiasts. I'm probably sure you know some of them already. But if anybody does have any questions, by all means, get them in the chat. We can ask some questions.
Hi, Dylan.
I'm sure you know most of these people.
I've got it up on my TV up here, but it's like I'm a bit short-sighted, so I could just about make it out.
Yeah, I'm the same. I can't see anything even when I'm wearing my glasses off, and I've got so many screens open, I can't see anyone clearly, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe that's the way this channel goes. I did have an idea that I was going to ask you a bunch of quick-fire questions, but I think we've covered most of those things anyway. But I want to start a general conversation with everyone that I bring in as a guest of what do we do right and what do we do wrong in the hobby. So it's your general bugbears. What are the things that you see people doing that you wish we wouldn't do, or what are the things you see people doing that you're glad that we're doing? So, for instance, I'm a big discus lover. That's my favourite fish. And we often talk about the water change thing. It's just really not quite as big a deal as personally I think that anyway. And that's the thing that I'd like to just get everybody off that topic for a while. And the feeding, because I don't think people feed enough. So if you get anything in that kind of sphere, given your specialism, so that you could give some special tips and tricks to people when they're considering buying these fish.
Yeah, I mean, definitely with the plecos. I mean, I totally agree with you with discus, by the way. I basically think discus are basically like Oscars and Severums. I don't find them any different to any other cichlid I've kept. And I don't know, I literally put off keeping them for like 15 years, and now I have a pair of them, and they're no different to any of my other fish, really.
Yeah.
They're just, they're not really, but no, with the plecos, people keep buying them when they're really, really skinny, and it's really, I don't know whether it's an awareness problem, whether it's the shops not being able to like worm them properly or something when they come in, and also like not giving them the right kind of food or enough food. But I am seeing a lot of very, very skinny plecos just everywhere. Obviously I'm on a lot of Facebook groups and just sort of around. And yeah, it's probably one of the main things I see. It's like, oh, why is my pleco upside down? And it's like its eyes are all sunken in and its belly's like this. Yeah. And you're just like, well, that hasn't happened overnight. So it seems to be a very big problem at the moment.
In diets in general, do you find there's lots of misconceptions out there? I know there's lots of fairly recent research that's been discussed, if not recently come out, but people are talking about diet a lot more, about whether so freshwater ichthyology, who you'll see in the chat, Rebecca, she's done a couple of videos on diet and how it affects.
Learned loads off of her. Yeah. Honestly, learned loads, and convincing people I know, and my dad and things like that, people who are up the fish room with me, that the stuff that it says online is wrong, and that we should be looking at the biology and the ichthyology and all of that kind of thing instead. And then you start looking, and there's not very much research that's really been done. But a lot of it, if you really, really do a deep dive, a lot of these plecos are algae eaters first and foremost, or they're grazers. They're grazing on that sort of layer of stuff that's in, even if you walk by like a normal pond, you'll see it. There's just like stuff covering everything.
Yeah.
And, that's what they're eating. And, fair enough, a pleco in one part of the river might be eating a slightly different recipe to somewhere else. But then if you start looking at commercial fish foods, in fact, I put a big old list on the Facebook the other day, because I had a couple of customers asking me why their plecos were losing weight, and I asked them what they were feeding. And then when I Googled the ingredients of what they were feeding, it was only like 3% algae in what they were feeding. And then I did a deep dive into it, and I did a great big long list, and I basically ordered all of, not all of them, most of the commercial fish foods. I want to add more to it. For plecos, and basically listed them in order of like algae content, and you'd be shocked. It's basically there's 3 at the top, and then after about sort of 30%, there's a big drop off, and suddenly everything is at 6% algae or less. And some of the sort of leading brands have got hardly anything in them whatsoever, and it's mostly just like wheat, which is basically what we feed koi.
Yeah,
so
it's the fillers
we're just
and the
feeding
germ and things like that, isn't it? No, I had a similar, not discussion, but someone was talking about it, and I think it's a curse of the internet sometimes, where all this information is available but nobody actually looks for it. They go for the first thing that they find, where they say pleco algae wafer, and then you look at the algae wafer and you go, well, there are 1,000 different types of algae wafer out, and some of them don't actually have any algae in them, but it's called algae wafer, so that's what I'll use.
It must be plain algae. I've got a pack of cloverleaf food over there that I bought the other day for this fella behind me, and I was in the shop, and there was this big beautiful display of all this different food, and I was like, oh, I've seen that one before, predator, oh lovely, okay, spent like £30 on it because he needs a big bag, and then I looked at the back and it has chicken in it. And he can't eat chicken because he's a fish, they can't digest it. So that's it's very strange. I don't know. I mean, I do know, because I've been looking into making my own foods. It's far off. It's a far off thing. But there's no regulation on it. You don't need any kind of license. There's no nothing.
Yeah, there's what was it? Because I sell some foods as well, but I don't make the foods. They're all the foods that I've used in the past, and I've got some deals with some of the suppliers to let me sell it with my sticker on it. And I was looking into the legalities of it, and if you just put a sticker on there that says not for human consumption, do whatever the hell you want. That's literally the be all and the end all of the rules. It just made me think, okay, do I have to put in percentages of things? Nah, you don't have to. But I mean, I do. I must admit, my algae wafers that I sell, they're not. I'm going to send myself down a wormhole here. They're not the greatest in terms of algae content. I'm just looking for one of the labels so I can see what one of the things is. I've not got any up here. I shall need to do that. I'll make a follow-up video. But it is a conversation that I'm seeing more and more, not just for plecos, but it's in general trying to do comparisons to wild fish diets and replicate that with the domestic fish. So when you look at the gut contents of fish that have been found, and again, this is something Rebecca's been going on about for a while recently, it just blows my mind that all this information is out there and the big commercial companies aren't doing much towards that, it seems. They've got a recipe that works and they're going to stick with it. So I don't know. Listing ingredients, Rebecca's saying there, I wish fish foods would list ingredients more. I think it's not a requirement, but most good foods will at least list their ingredients. If not their ingredients, the percentages of what's going on there. Anyway, before we go down a rabbit hole about fish foods,
we could chat for hours, literally, and pet foods in general.
That's it. Welcome to my world. It's me sitting here thinking of things to go down rabbit holes and go, right, okay, we'll go on about this one. So, keys to success is obviously, I suppose it's the same as anything else. Buy from a good source. We'll assume you're a good source, even though I've never bought any fish from you. Buy from a good source. What are the keys to success? Could you say you found it quite easy to breed plecos? Is that a universal thing, or is it just because of the way you're keeping them that promotes a good environment for them to breed in? So, for instance, for my experience, I've always had loads of luck with like ancestress and stuff. So your bristlenose plecos. Add bristlenose plecos, add water, wait, millions of babies. But I've had other plecos in the past where I've had breeding groups where they've been sold to me as breeding groups that just never do anything. So what am I doing wrong? Or what might I be doing wrong? Or what could anybody be doing wrong? If they're getting success in one area, why am I not getting it in the other areas? Are they quite a diverse set of parameters to breed different types of plecos? Or do they all like the same sort of thing?
Yeah, I'd say diverse is a good way of putting it. Yeah, I mean, we import a lot of plecos, so directly from Brazil, Peru, Colombia. But then I've also got basically the ones that I breed are the ones that are not easily available. So things like the L183 starlights. I say I breed them. I have a lovely pair of females and no male, so I'm on the search for a male. But things that I do breed, like the L397s, and bristle noses, hypoancistrus, I actually don't put caves in with them because they're a pain and I don't need to breed them. But generally, if it's not working, shake them up.
Move them around?
That's yeah. So, well, not actually physically pick up the tank and shake them, but you do like a really big voice change, or move them. Yeah, I mean, you could even move them from one side of the room to the other, and so they've got a little bit of different light on them, or pop them in a different tank. But generally, if they're not, that's completely anecdotal. That is just what seems to work for me. If they're not doing something in the setup that you've got them in, then change it. But I mean, I always simulate things to the natural environment. So, I try and match parameters. I'm very privileged because I have a big old RO set up, and the tap water we have here is really, really hard. So I can really, really specifically match things like hardness and pH. And I've got a really good game with just to keep maintaining that basically. But I have a really, really rigorous water change schedule. I do a lot of water changes, and it's a lot of RO and rainwater that goes into the tanks. I have really soft water generally. Don't really fill them up from the taps, aside from just like reconstituting it. So maybe that's part of it, but not everybody can use rainwater. I'm in a very sort of low pollution area, and then obviously it goes through the RO anyway. So
So I guess
it's probably that.
As well as parameters, there's trying to match the habitats and stuff. So fast-flowing rivers, if it's a fast-flowing fish, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That kind of makes sense. While I've got you on, so you've made the mistake of calling yourself a pleco specialist. L numbers.
Yeah.
What the hell's that all about?
Not an expert. not an expert, but a specialist. I'm someone who sells pleco specifically.
Specialist, that's the word we use.
Yes.
Yeah, but L numbers, what the hell? What's that all about? I cannot get my head around L numbers. Why has the same fish got several different L numbers?
I couldn't answer why each one's got lots of different L numbers. I think it's where they've been picked up by different people and they thought that they were the first person to find it, so they gave it a number, and then we ended up with lots of different people putting their papers together, and everyone.
No, these are all the same thing.
Yeah, basically, probably. But no, basically, so some of them have scientific names. So, for instance, one off the top of my head, you've got Hypancistris deblitera, which is, I think it's one of the earlier ones that was found, actually. It might have been Furunculus. But anyway, so that has a scientific name, which is either going to be like Latin or Greek or something like that. And then basically, if it's a pleco that has not yet been described, so person hasn't sort of sat down and sort of worked out, okay, so this is what this looks like, this is where it's from.
It's got 7 spines and 3 spots on the back.
Yeah. Basically, if it doesn't have a name, if someone hasn't sat down and really done the work, and it's a lot of work involved, it's not something simple. It's not just like, oh, that's going to be called that, hooray. There's a lot that goes into it. And that's when they give it an L number. But I can't remember the L numbers to save my life. So if everything has a common name or a Latin name or a Greek name, that'd be great. But I'm always getting numbers mixed up.
It's the bane of my life. Latin names, scientific names, L numbers. For a quick preview for those of you who are staying around for the quiz, we do a quiz around 10 o'clock. I've shot myself in the foot here. I've got lots of scientific names included in the quiz, so you'll get to see me going, I don't know what it is. It's the same with plants. I just cannot get my head around Latin names, whether it's fish, plants, or anything in between. It just sounds like I'm casting a spell of some kind. So you'd think I would love L numbers, because you can just say L015. There you go. That's an actual number. And they go, oh yeah, but you mean this one or this one? And that's actually also L357. You're like, what? Why? So it's just a general bane of mine that I've never understood why we do that.
I'm going to start saying all of them like incantations now. That's brilliant. I love that.
Hypancistris explosio. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
That's probably a real fish. In fact, if I ever go discovering fish, I'm going to use that.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. I mean, I'm one of those rare people who actually had to study Latin. I have a Latin GCSE of all things, and I can guarantee my Latin teachers sat there going, yes, I never thought she paid attention, but I knew.
It did come in useful after all, yes.
Oh, no, I know. Yeah.
No, I didn't do Latin, so maybe that's where I went wrong.
I don't really know very many people who did, to be honest.
So, we'll get off my inability to say words properly, given the fact that I'm here trying to say words. I don't want to jinx myself. If you haven't seen Lou's channel, I noticed you do quite a fairly regular news type of thing. How do you get all this information? Because I found things in there that I had no idea were going on in the world about. Are you just constantly scouring the CITES website and seeing what fish has been reclassified today? Or how are you finding all this? If nothing else, good advert, good shout out and plug to go and subscribe to your channel, because I found it really useful, and I'm now going to use it and steal all your information to make up my quizzes. But other than that, how did you get into that side of things?
I think it's just because, I mean, I've been around on the Facebook groups and the forums for so long. I've got so many people on my feed that it just kind of turns up on my Facebook feed or, on Reddit or whatever. So I don't really have to do too much investigation. The one in the last episode about America that popped up, I had to do a lot of research about that because I wanted to make sure I was getting things right because I didn't quite fully understand the situation to start off with. But I mean, especially the stuff in the first episode, that stuff that I really wanted to talk about. There's a very, very good documentary that came out. I think it was last year, which is like, is it called Wild Caught? Wild Fishes of the Amazon or something.
Yeah, we famously tried to watch it on the live stream once and I got copyright striked for it.
Oh no! Well, it's mostly in Spanish with subtitles, so it's definitely one that you have to sort of sit there and watch and pay attention. But no, I mean that probably sparked because that sort of came out. Well, it wouldn't have been last year. It would have been a couple of years ago now. But that was sort of the main thing that really. I mean, I knew about it, but I didn't know that much about it, type thing. And that was what really just got me interested. And then you know what algorithms are like? They just throw stuff at you anyway because they know that my algorithm knows that I like fish. So
you can't get away from it. There's no escaping now. Yeah. So I would
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
recommend that because I found a few of those recently, but yours was very easy to consume and not too far down the rabbit hole. So I think one of the ones I was reading about was you were talking about I was sat here watching. I don't actually read. You were talking about things like zebra plecos and how they were getting to a point where they were all either illegal or inbred. And it's just something that's so obvious that you just, of course that's correct. Why wouldn't that be the case? It was one of these things that just clicked with me. It went, oh yeah, that's a really good point. Why didn't I think of that? When you're sat there going, damn, I wish I'd thought about making a video and saying that, because it's so clear and obvious that, I won't repeat it all, but I'll just say go and have a look at your videos. It's well worth the 10 minutes to sit down and listen to some of that stuff. Quick interjection. If anyone does have any questions for Lou, get them in the chat now, and then we'll go back and we can look through them. Just put question in your question like I tell you every week, and then it'll highlight it for me. But sorry for interrupting you.
Oh no, that's all right. I've got a little bit of a delay, so sorry if I interrupt you as well. But we just had a really bad delivery of them, and we had loads of like snub noses and like the dodgy dorsals and things on them, and I just started really looking into it, and it's kind of like guppies. This is what we've done with guppies, isn't it? And goldfish.
And I think, and you mentioned this when you were talking about it, that's the price that's attached to some of these fish. It just encourages people to do bad things, because if you get a huge turnover of them and they're worth a lot of money, then you're going to keep doing that, and it's only the more nefarious people out there are just going to take advantage of that, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, if I had £1 for every time somebody asked me what's the best pleco to breed, I wouldn't be selling fish.
Yeah. So. Well, and I think you're right. It's more of a problem because with guppies, it's very easy to go and get guppies from a completely different source that from so far removed from the guppies you might have been keeping, because they're so cheap. But when it's really expensive fish, people are hoarding them almost, trying to squeeze every last drop out of them, aren't they? Have you experienced any other nefarious practices, or is there any other shady goings on in the pleco world? That it's not a world I'm all that familiar with.
Not specifically in the pleco world, no. I mean, the fish industry, I know specifically that prices should be coming down on a lot of things, because freight prices now for the fish are generally very similar to what they were before COVID. But I am not seeing prices coming down for a lot of these places. It's not places out in South America, and that those freight prices are still very expensive, but other things are coming down. So it's starting to be a little bit like, are we making it a self-fulfilling prophecy that prices are going up because we're getting a little bit greedy because people are paying it? So it can be so tempting to push prices up by like a £5, £3, all this kind of thing, but at the end of the day, it's not really doing the fish any favours. I mean, I don't really agree with fish being too cheap either, because I don't think that helps. But it's one of those things that when I'm seeing, there was like a breeding trio, or it wasn't even a breeding trio. I think it was a one female, two males or something of, is it the L236, the super white ones? And they were asking like over £1,000 for them. And I'm just thinking, well, hang on a second. Like, we don't even know if they're a real species,
Yeah.
So
they've just been bleached or died. Yeah.
But yeah.
No, because it's I find myself conflicted sometimes. Similarly, that I'll go to a fish store and go, God, that's expensive, and at the same time think, oh, I don't want them to be too cheap, because then that's just encouraging someone that's going to put no effort in and just do the whole replace your fish after it dies every 3 months type thing. So yeah, it's something I struggle with as well, because I know, as a Scotsman, I'm cheap and I don't like spending money, but also I do quite like the fish and I don't want them to be taken advantage of almost.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not too bad. There are specific plecos but people seem to be quite fair. I mean, I'm involved in a big community. I don't know if anybody who's watching goes on banned. But basically, when Facebook banned live animal sales, basically everyone migrated over onto that app. And there's a really, really big community of breeders. I mean, I import as well as breed, but, there's a lot of people on there who sell. And there's really, really good quality fish, actually. And it's all just, done quite privately now. And it's all, people who have got little setups and fish rooms, in their back gardens and that kind of thing. And prices are very fair as well. So, you can often, just as an example, L306 plecos, they're like these really, really heavily candy striped panaculus plecos. They're like white, red, black, like a milk snake, really, really dramatic looking fish. You want an adult one of those, you're going to be looking about 80 to 120 pounds. But then if you can find a breeder, you can get some, maybe 1-2 inch fry for about 25 pounds each. You can then grow those on. If you've got too many males, sell them. Great. And it's just stuff like that, with the community actually working with each other instead of everyone just getting fish from the shop and then keeping them to themselves. So it's really nice to see stuff like that start to happen.
I've seen that at auctions and things like that, where people will be there and they'll be selling the fish that they've got from their little breeding programs, but they'll also be tapping everyone up saying, I've got this coming in the next few weeks, so give me your email and I'll send you this when I'll get these ones coming in. I've tried to use Band a few times, but it's more what's the word I'm trying to, come on, I've had half a beer and I already can't remember how to say words properly. I find Band quite confusing. I don't know whether I've just not found the right sites or the right groups within it.
It's got a weird layout. Yeah, it does have a bit of a weird layout.
So maybe I need to spend more time in there figuring out what to do and where.
Yeah, or if somebody who's watching knows anything about app development or programming, there's your niche.
Well, as you saw earlier, I'm always telling people, come and join my Discord server, and then I get on there myself and I'm like, what does this button do? I can't figure this out.
Yeah.
So
fish keepers before anything else.
Well, I work in I have a proper job as well as the fish keeping side of things, and it's so embarrassing that I get confused by IT things on a regular basis.
You tell people that.
I know. I'm a professional, honestly. I know what I'm doing. I'm glad it's not just me. Rebecca's there saying Band is beyond me, so it's not just me. Thank God. So, before we let you go, how do we find you? If somebody's interested in finding out what kind of stock you've got in, what kind of stuff that you've obviously got your YouTube channel, where else can we find you?
So if you want to see what we've currently got available, so everything should have a full write-up on our website, which is www.inthebagtropicalfish.co.uk. So the website is basically just kind of like any other fish shop
like
website.
Yeah.
You've got pictures of the fish. So we only post photos of the actual fish. They're not stock images. They are photos of the actual fish that we are selling. And then, there's full write-ups on there. And we also do deals on multiples of things. So you should be able to select different group sizes and it should calculate prices for you. Postage is via DX. So they are a legal DEFRA courier. And that's Tuesday to Saturday. So Tuesday to Friday is £20 and then Saturday is £22.50. And that is guaranteed live arrival. And then we also do a 7-day guarantee of the fish after they've arrived with you as well. So we're very generous with that and we deal with everything. It doesn't happen often, but we're very, very generous with that kind of thing. And then, so we've got Facebook. banned as well. I did used to do TikTok. That's kind of how I started doing the videos, but I don't go on there anymore because I think it was melting my brain. So there are some old ones on there if you wanted to see how the fish room was made. There's some videos on the TikTok, which I think is just Lou's Fish Room. Or Alice's Aquarium. I can't remember.
You need
So
to
yeah,
repurpose
no,
all of them
I go
as
by my
YouTube
second name.
shorts.
So yeah. So
Always thinking. So we know where to find you. So let me just go back and see if there's any questions. I've got a couple of questions that I've seen here. What is your favourite species you've kept and one you've been trying to track down?
favorite species I've kept is probably going to be emperor snakehead, which is I've got a little one.
I've got a big
be
one
able
of
to
them.
see him. Have you got a large one? Hang on. I don't know whether you can see because I can only see it on a tiny screen. But we've got a little fella growing out down here. There you go. So yeah, he's a red one. But basically, I did have one. He was about this big, and his name was Spock. And I loved that fish. I'm a Trekkie, but no, I loved that fish with all my heart. And then right before he was about to be upgraded to an amazing pond, he decided to bust out of a poly box with 2 bricks on it and just hit the ground. And it's a myth that they can survive outside of water. Because yeah, he broke my heart, and then it took me a while to track another one down. But no, snakeheads in general. I've also got a very, very grumpy Chana Punk Tartar, I think it is, called Steve. Steve hates everyone and everything, and we love him for it. So.
I have some fish like that, yes. My channel mascot is a flower horn called Humphrey, and he lives to destroy. That's all he cares about.
Everyone needs a Humphrey in their life. Yeah, a Humphrey or a Steve. So, yeah.
So I've got my flower horn called Humphrey, and my emperor snakehead's called Gordon. Because why wouldn't you?
Gordon, yes. I love that. Mine it's a little bit cheesy, but mine's called Phoenix because he's a red emperor snakehead, but also because the last one died,
so
and he's red. From the flames. So he's the phoenix rising from the flames. Yeah, it's a little bit cheesy, but and then plecos. It's going to sound really, really boring, but I love the big old gibberceps. They're my favourites. Yep, the sailfin gibberceps. I have one called Versace, and it's very aggressive.
Well, that's quite a fitting name for them. They are very loud and proud, aren't they?
Yeah. No, the very old one I had before that got to like 30 was called Prada. But yeah, no, she was very flamboyant as well. But this one is a savage. It's honestly a right savage. It's killed a lot of other plecos. It's got something not quite right in its head. Oh, no. But it's just amazing. Because it's so angry, its fins are always out, and it's just always it looks amazing. It's about this big, but I can't wait to do this like this. But yeah, I like things with a bit of an attitude. But the gibberceps is what I base my logo on, and there's something about them that is really cool.
Yeah, I must admit, I find a lot of joy in finding new species that I've not kept before. But the things like the emperor snakehead, I've always loved snakeheads. I've had smaller ones before in the past and done not great with them. They kept escaping and trying to commit suicide. But this one...
I have one called Cecil that happened with, yeah.
Gordon, so far, he is the most chilled out fish I've ever had. He's probably the biggest fish I've ever had as well. He's well over 2 feet long. But you see these videos of the people who I'm sure they must just be tormenting them to get them to freak out all the time, and they're just not being treated nicely. But he's so stress-free, chilled out. Anytime I'm messing about in the tank, he'll come right up and scare the bejesus out of me. I'm not wrong. I'm sure he could take a finger off quite easily, but he'll just be like, "Hello, what are we doing today, sir?" He's the greatest fish I've had in a while. But Humphrey is the exact opposite. He's like, "Come on, just come a bit closer, because I'm pretty sure I could jump out and bite your nose off."
Born to fight, yeah.
Yeah, he's born with some kind of thing gone wrong there. So another question we've got here is your video style. And this is something I noticed as well I was going to ask you about. Another question I have about your video style, the little circle screen and making it vlog style is unique and works well. Is that just a recording software thing, or was that done by choice?
It's a wonderful thing that's built into my phone. So I have an Oppo,
Oppo, yeah.
Oppo X3 Lite, and it's something that the phone just has on it, which is really convenient.
It is. It looks good. It looks as if you put loads of time and
Yeah,
effort into that. So we'll scrub
I
that from
don't
the
know.
replay to say no, it was a design choice. Thought long and hard about the aesthetic and went with that. Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I wanted. I don't know how people would do that otherwise, but I'm pretty sure there's an app you can download that does that. Surely, I don't know.
I,
I don't
there
know.
was one once because I used to try and do that, and it got discontinued on one of the versions of Android because I'm an Android person rather than an iPhone. And it
Yeah.
only works on iPhones now, but they've got rid of it from that as well now. But it's quite sought
Oh,
after that, so I shall need to look for that. Fine.
yeah,
Last question
yeah.
before we kick you out.
So,
How are you
yeah, and then
getting
we'll
on
do the
with
quiz.
you joining the quiz? Good, good. How are you getting on with the Mustard Spot Plecos, says DJ8 Aquatics.
The mustards. Yeah. So the mustards have been banished to a tub because I needed to get there was an FX6 in the tank that they were in behind that tank. So I had to get that out, and so basically they're in like a underbed storage container just in the
All
middle
right.
of the fish room floor at the moment. I have no idea what they're doing because I can't see them. They've just got a stack of wood with their breeding caves and a stack of plants on top of them, and they seem perfectly happy. I see them every now and again, but I have no idea if they've bred or done anything. So yeah, no, I'm
That'll be
I'm
a happy
trying for a
surprise
world's
when you get
first
round to
with
it then.
them. Yeah, yeah. But I didn't. They're just playing with my emotions. I don't think it'll be this year. It'll probably be in about 5 years' time that I manage to crack them. So it's just a waiting game.
Right. So with that said, thank you very much for joining me. I'm sorry it was so unprofessional and I couldn't figure out how to get you into the stream, but we got there in the end, so hopefully it's not too bad.
It's all good.
If you're going to hang around, if anyone does have any more questions, stick them in the chat and we'll take it from there. But we'll get ready with the quiz, and I'll thank you very much for joining me, and we'll do this again sometime. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, and thank you to everybody for watching as
Yes,
well.
go
It's
subscribe
been
to
an
his
honour.
channel.
So,
Well, all the links will be in the description. I saw Scott doing it earlier, posting them up there. So thanks very much, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
all right, thank you.